Hello there. Good day. Happy Wednesday to all of you. Some of you are probably experiencing a Thursday, possibly. I'm not sure how that works. It's very confusing to be on this place where most people think we live on a ball, and that people in Australia are upside down. If that is not a lesson for how absurd we can become, I don't know what else is. The red squirrels are pretty pissed off today, but we're going to work with it. It's going to be okay. These are Black Lives Matter squirrels, and they are very upset at the way things have gone down. See, he's got his back to us. He's like, fuck you guys. You guys have no idea. You have no idea the things I go through. And so it's a very active day around here for that. We'll also admit that I saw another black bear this morning with her 3 cubs. Typical single mother, raising her 3 cubs. Black Lives Matter. But we're going to get through this. We're going to find a way to open up our compassion and realize that there are those around us who are working on their compassion too. Hopefully this sounds good. Seems to be no one's great. All right. Fellas, ladies, let's wow, we got 3 of them now. I want to play you this, okay? Here we go.
Not detected, but it's not detected. So
you said that they were vented immediately upon being brought in. Is that?
Yeah. So the thing is they're coming in with difficulty breathing, and a lot of these patients are really coming in with anxiety because they're scared. And when I was back home, I was working in the ED out in the tents, and most people that were coming through with like symptoms of just anxiety, or they're worried and they're breathing fast, and then they get all nervous. So this is how the people are like coming in. Now I'm not saying that some of them don't have COVID. Like there are people that come in and they really do need help, not to the extent of event, but they need help. But these other people, like this person who wasn't COVID multiple times, and a lot of them are on either Medicaid or Medicare. They're poor. They're from, a lower class. We're at a public hospital. They need the funding. So they take them, and they tell them pretty much that if they don't get on an event, then they're probably not going to survive. But the reality is, if they get on that event, the likelihood of them walking out the hospital is slim to none.
And can I?
That is nurse turned investigative reporter Erin Marie Olszewski. She was at what everyone has been calling the epicenter of COVID-19. She was in that hospital as well as others, and she's been doing a bang-up job exposing what's been going on. I urge all of you to watch that full video and share it. It's in the link description. It's in the video description. It's a very good telling video. There's actually a lot more information. I just only wanted to show you just that small part of it. The reason why I'm bringing this up with Black Lives Matter is because these two events are played in tandem. They're rolled out on top of each other to stop others, I should say, from being able to track what people like Erin are doing out there. Erin has compassion. She is not concerned with how it appears. She's concerned with what the truth is. But we're not going to be able to get to that as a society because of Black Lives Matter, and because of the George Floyd op. Now, I want to remind you guys, some of you guys may or may not have noticed, but Donald Trump has actually put out a tweet calling that op fake. He has gone so far as to say that, and that is really interesting. He, in typical political fashion, he has, of course, linked the OAN network, which is the QAnon OAN. Bannon is the Smith Moon arm of the White House. So, Trump's doing what Wayne L. Sexton was doing, what any CIA agent is doing. Remember, we talked about this. There's a port into the zeitgeist of your brain through news and media, and anyone is allowed to access that port and dump whatever toxins or juice or saline or whatever else they wanted inside that port. And we as a zeitgeist will respond to that. That's how you erase things. You reset, reset, reset by constantly serving something new. This is actually why they call it news. Funny enough, it's actually why they do that. It's not true, right? They don't call news truths, or truths. They don't say on today's truths, blah. They never once say that. They say on today's news, right? So like a hard drive, like a mud flood, you're constantly stacking on top, and you're losing precious data every moment. Keep in mind that lies are much faster than truth. They have more glitter, they have more fanfare, they have more sexy. And this is really all it takes, especially when you have a single port. Little business here. Happy apocalypse. Warm hugs, brother. Thank you, Jason Day, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Really, thanks a lot, guys. Holy Shart, Black Bear, typical single mother. That's right, Joseph Paul. Thank you for the super chat. I also really want to give a shout out to James York, Colton Poole, Rachel Ferrand, Callie Bernsdorf. You guys just rocked it yesterday with the super chats, and I appreciate that because yesterday, 6 for 7. 6 out of the last 7 of my videos have been demonetized. We are on a frickin' roll. And if it were not for my patrons and the super chat, this would not be possible. Big shout out to my patrons too. Thank you guys so much. Now, history can be reset. It can be reset by being covered with more news. All it takes is just more propaganda. The more propaganda you place on top, the harder it's going to be to dig down to that propaganda. Yesterday, we talked about the Civil War. We talked about the fraud of calling the Civil War a fight for slavery. General Custer was at Appomattox Courthouse. He had locks. He kept cinnamon in his locks. He wore long furled gloves. He carried a reporter with him at all times, someone to sketch pictures of him on his horse, someone to document his heroic nature. He was known, one famous story at Appomattox was that he was trying to get a good rendering of himself and got caught up underneath one of the trees. He was on a horse that was too tall, and anyway, a rather short man in stature, Custer. He was kind of like he was your typical Hollywood zeitgeist narcissist. He was there for fame. To be fair, though, most everyone in that time, that's kind of what you did. It was the snake oil medicine show was more built into society. Now we pretend that we've expunged the snake oil medicine show. We've pretended that no longer happens. Back then, we were just more honest about the technology of belief. That really what we were looking at was people competing for belief. Now only a certain group of people can compete for belief within the medical industry, for example. Those same people are allowed to diagnose patients, as Erin Marie just showed you, that have 0 COVID test positives, 2 tests in a row, but they're still considered COVID confirmed. All of that, by the way, happens through a nationalized software system that's been installed by the very people that run the insurance that would end up making money off these kinds of psyops. So please understand that it would be as simple, just as it's as easy to inject a story into the AP or the Reuters, it would be just as simple to inject some patients at Elmhurst Hospital as COVID. In the poorest district in the world, a $19,000 test or a $37,000 diagnosis. After diagnosis, you finally start to add things up. But again, it's going to be very hard to get out there and talk about that, as you know, with Facebook, the censoring there. In fact, the one video that was deleted here from my channel, episode 34, Mary Pranksters the Apocalypse, which sucks because it has some really cool information in it, that also exposed the COVID and was removed. So when we're in Babylon, we're not here to bitch about this. When in Babylon, this is how it goes. History is being rewritten as you walk, as you breathe, as you talk. During the Civil War, you would actually find there were French ships there. There were Dutch ships. There were Spanish ships there. There were British ships there, of course. If you could truly look at what was happening in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, what you would actually see is I'm going to use the word Masons here. It's not quite right. It's like a Templar, Masonic, New World Order that's always been here that was simply sweeping the country. And when they came in, remember, they're telling you that Christopher Columbus discovered America, and that's not true. Before Christopher Columbus was here, there were cities that rivaled London in the Mississippi Delta. As we've been over, 1/3 of the Seminole tribe was black. I'm sorry, 1/3 of the Cherokee tribe was black. 2/3 of the Seminole tribe was black. The Welsh, fucker just stole a peanut right next to me. The Welsh had settled in the highlands here centuries before. This was a free country, a free land that ran on the Longhouse, the Iroquois Confederacy. I know you don't know this. I know. It's not your fault. I didn't mean that to sound like... What I mean is that none of us have been taught this. You have to dig for this. In fact, you're not going to be able to find a book that says verbatim what I just told you unless you read one of mine. And I only know this because I'm just not an idiot. I read the Iroquois Confederacy, and it literally defines the bicameral House. The House of Representatives, the Senate, is defined in the Iroquois Confederacy. The entire system of voting is defined in there. Representative government is defined in there. Every single aspect of what you saw in D.C., with one huge exception, was already written in 1450. 1140. No, 1450. We have proof that this system was in play. The people of the Longhouse. 5 nations living in harmony as a confederacy. A confederacy of nations. And that's what was here before Christopher came and discovered it. Remember, Christopher Columbus did not discover America. He erased it. And in order for him to erase it, he needed a multinational, international force. And when I say he, I'm not talking about Columbus. I don't think Christopher Columbus was a living being. And I do understand that there's a shitload of documentation. I do understand that. I get it. So I can't even win that argument with you. But I do know how... Okay, maybe you can see this now. If you look at Julian Assange in 20 or 50 years, I know you don't see it yet, But he's going to be the truth Messiah. He's going to be like, oh my God, he was the champion of truth. We have statues of him everywhere. And then if you could look forward in 300 more years, you would find that a Beige Lives Matter movement would start up, and they would topple the statue of Julian Assange because he was an albino whitey. He was racist. It will be something. He will be called a non-gerbilitarian because of how famous he was with having cats, right? He will be an anti-Mousian. It will be something. But before he can be torn down, he must be built up. The pedestal must rise so that the idol must fall. So the statue must fall. It's just math, guys. All it is math. It's just simple, dimple math. And that's what's happening right now. Right now, we are doing simple math. As we raise up our archetypes that we know are bullshit, we will tear them down and we will replace them with new. This is piston work. This is the technology of belief inside your engine. It's like an interesting white dance, doesn't it? Black lives matter, 'cause I'm white, and I think black lives matter, yeah. I will never do that again. It is a motor that you can control. And that's why we're always inserted with champions like Martin Luther King, like Trump. It's Julian Assange. This is just how it works, guys. Again, this is just how Babylon works. It's not how life works. This is how Babylon works. And if we're in Babylon, this is the framework that happens. And as a result of that, you end up with things. You end up with cray-cray, right? You end up with this. You end up with a religion, right, of fetish. You end up with a religion of masochism and a religion of sadism, right? Because masochism and sadism are the same thing. Masochism and sadism are very similar to master and slave. Both will use the polarity of the other to satisfy or not satisfy their electrical prana economy. This, pretty sure that's a chick. This chick has a prana economy, which is that I am the leader of fuck white people. And that's my shtick. And I've created a tent pole in the prana economy. I've set up shop as a vendor for fuck white people. And I do a good job. I do it better than anyone else. And all who come will come. James True came. I did. I downloaded this picture. I'm showing it to you. For her to vend this, it requires hate. The only way this works is with hate. Think of hate as a electrical negative charge. Think of it as a void. Okay? Stop thinking of negative as bad. Think of negative as agnosis, the coming of gnosis. Think of negative as Isis, the womb. All right? And from the womb, you can expunge something new. You can send it on its way. And from that negativity, she can generate power. She can generate positive power from other people who have a prana economy of a lot of negative. They provide a service for each other. It's a complete congruent prana economy. This is actually what you're seeing here is a valid transaction between anyone who initiates it with her. And I don't want to change this. I am not here to say we need to change this. I am here to say we get to study this. That's why I am here. We want to study it. Because this is about compassionitarianism. Not communitarianism, if FSB's listening. No, I'm talking about a religion of compassion. Think about it. I'm talking about the word religion, like the organized religion. I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about anything to do, just like most religions have nothing to do with God. That's what I'm talking about. Compassion. What did I call it on the thing? Compassionarians. It's an exercise in growth. I am here to tell you that Lily Fuck White People here is learning how to be compassionate. And the way she's doing that is she's learning to gather nectar of other people who need compassion for their negativity. She's learning about compassion right now. I know it doesn't look like that, but she is learning about compassion. Here's some white people. Podcasters. Sorry, that's lady and all fuck white people. Anyway. Here's another example. Here is several photos of white people that are wearing black shirts that say "so sorry," and each of them are pretending to be chained to each other, and they're led by a chain gang where one black person in an army coat is carrying a Moses staff with one snake wrapped around it, and they're walking through public. They walk through town, and then they end up getting down on their knees and crying and begging as they wear white sleeves expressing their compassion. Now, energetically, you have a guilt-shame vortex here. You have a two-sided guilt-shame vortex here. No one here is a victim. Not really. Not in this picture. This is a free-range exercise in exchange of information. Hey, black person, if you carry this pimp cane with a snake wrapped around it and lead us while we are pretending to be tied up, saying "so sorry," we will give you prana. So where's the profit there? How do these white people profit from this? And most of us would say, well, it's virtue, James. They profit from virtue. They get the virtue of everyone watching them, right? There's self-logging. We talked about this. Masochism. Look how racist I am, as you beat yourself in public. People are competing to see who can be lower on the ground. So there's a virtue that comes with that. Everyone who offloads virtue through shame, right? They have shame and they offload energy. They offload positivity to themselves. That's collected in a pool by the group, and it's distributed to whoever deserves it the most. It's just math. This is why I keep calling this a prana economy. This is all math. And there's nothing insane here. Trust me, I get that society's insane, but I'm just telling you guys, if you understand this as a compassionarian, as someone working on your Skittles, you will understand what the transaction here is and why they're doing it. This is a net profit for all these white people only because of where their prana economy was before they agreed to it. All right, there's a reason why white males are going out saying, will you tie me up and lead me through the street so I can get on my knees and beg for forgiveness? That's a prana transaction from years and years of white supremacy is bad. The word supremacy, meaning to master yourself, is a bad word. I showed you yesterday what happens when you Google the word pride. You are met with a giant glittering rainbow banner. Not counting about the advertisement. I'm talking about just what Google says. Pushing sodomy sex. Pride means sodomy sex. If you have pride, you have to be gay. What's the antithesis of that? If you don't want to be gay, you must have shame, right? We looked this up. The opposite of pride is shame. I'm not doing any reaching here. We're just walking step by step. into white dudes wearing shirts saying so sorry and feeling good about it. Again, their prana economy makes this a profit for them because of where they were. They already have that deficit. They're already operating on empty. Their ego tank is already on empty. And what happens when your ego tank is on empty? You behave irrationally and you take chances. You will run the red light because you're afraid you might run out of gas. You will pass someone that you think might be too slow because they may cause you to not have enough gas to get to the gas station. When you get to the gas station, you are secretly trying to give yourself gas when no one else is looking. And if someone catches you putting in more than a quarter of a tank, you are penalized by society for doing that based on, do you have a dick and how much melanin's in your skin? It's a transaction. It's a transaction that most of us have agreed to when we're in Babylon. It comes with Babylon. This shirt is a product of Babylon. It would take me a shitload of a long time to make this shirt. But I want this shirt and I don't want to have to make it, so I'm going to come into Babylon and I'm going to watch people do this. But instead of me just say that, well, they're just fucking insane, I'd rather understand them. This is Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And I'm your host. And we are analyzing humans, the most mysterious, wonderful animal in this place. But James, humans aren't animals. I'm saying to you that many humans are still animals. I'm saying to you that we have always made an assumption that compassion is like a intelligence that everyone has. That the capacity for compassion is something that we're under the impression that every person is born with the same amount. Because we're all equal, right? And I'm here to tell you that's not fucking true. And what we see as virtue signaling is compassion school. And when you see someone virtue signaling, this goes to aperture. And this is hard to swallow. It's hard to swallow because it's very easy to be mad at virtue signalings. I am the king of let's get mad at virtue signalings. You can look at my history, you look at my books, you look at my writing. I love going after that. But I keep asking why. And I have to go to their aperture. And when I go into their aperture, what I see is someone who's trying to learn compassion by trying to appear compassionate. And I imagine myself with the broomstick pretending that it's a lightsaber and swinging it in the backyard. And I'm picturing a Jedi looking at me out the window going, what a fucking idiot. That guy's just Jedi signaling. He's no idea what he's doing. It's so fake. All of it's fake. And that Jedi would be right. But what's inside my head? Because what we call virtue signalers are, inside his head, he's like, oh, I'm going to virtue signal and try. Like inside my head, when I'm pretending to be Jedi, I am hoping that Jedi will see me and think, oh, he's a Jedi too. That's what we think of virtue signaling is. And I'm trying to tell you that someone who does not have a capacity for compassion yet could be mimicking the art of being the Jedi, but actually not be paying attention to what the Jedis think of him. They actually could be fully immersed in their cockpit and trying to learn how to Jedi. And is it the right way? Probably not. Probably not. Am I a Jedi now? I do not have a lightsaber. So no, you're supposed to build your own lightsaber. I have not done that. So all those years did not work. I am closer to like a Chewbacca, like a balding Chewbacca, but still, it's people are learning compassion the same way you are learning truth. And as far advanced as you are, to have gone so far as I have to go into the rabbit hole, realize it's all bullshit, and come back out, and crawled under the thickets and found me and going, hey dude, that's fucking insane. I'm like, I know, right? The amount of calories it took you to get this far, there are people that have the same struggles, but instead of being truth, it's compassion. And they just can't see it. They just can't see it. And it would be fair to call them psychopathic. It would. But psychopathic does have this connotation of them being evil and smart. A lot of psychopathy is considered intelligent and evil. But there's a compassion side. There's a compassionless psychopathy. And I know it probably sounds like, well, that's just psychopathy. Maybe it is. Maybe it is, actually. Prove my lips. But we can have compassion for this. Sucks, man. This is the Evening Standard. They're pulling down a statue of Milligan, maybe? London, another statue of someone they say is racist. I don't know how they pulled this off, but so to protest Black Lives Matter and racism, a white guy and a black guy are laying in unison on their belly, and they're wearing masks. Man, do the fucking math on that. I don't even know how that even happens, but it did. Why? Because they're learning compassion. They are. And when you first heard about racism a long ass time ago, you were like, oh God, I must be racist. I must not know it. You're right. And you fell for that too. And some of us don't make it out. Some of us don't make it out of the rabbit hole of racism. And these people are deep, man. They are fucking deep. And more statues get it. Here's Melville. He came down. More people laying on their belly. Washington, D.C. painted Black Lives Matter down their street, 4-lane street. Occupies, 5 blocks. Right in front of the Washington Needle. All these people are learning compassion. Believe it or not, to spray paint Robert Milligan like this and to pull him down, the statue of him, is compassion. To be this stupid, to wear a mask as a white guy saying Black Lives Matter, treat racism like COVID-19, he says. 1, assume you have it. 2, listens to experts about it. 3, don't spread it. 4, be willing to change your life to end it. If you can't do 1 through 4, says this compassionate neophyte, inject 1 bottle of Lysol or 2 of bleach. Basically, Black Lives Matter or die. And because of all these compassionatarians learning their way, the real psychopaths, the intelligent ones, the ones who run games, get to come in on top. And at the end of Black Lives Matter, guys, this Black Lives Matter painting on the street was led by the mayor. This was a government-sponsored event. And at the end of After Black Lives Matter, it says, equals defund the police. And just like George Floyd's parents, right, said we have to defund the police, just like Wayne Sexton says we need massive gun control, people are allowed to ride on Compassionarians. People are allowed to steer them. people are allowed to inject things. And why? Because of that prana economy, because of that power exchange. Wherever there's exchange of power, someone can be there and snipe it. It works at the bird feeder. It works at the buffet. It works in the business world. It's always the same. It's the same transaction. No one here is broken. Please note that these 3 stars and the equality sign, I believe it's going to be the New World Order tag sigil icon thing. I'm thinking this is China, America, Great Britain, and the equality of the world. It's a guess, but I've seen this. I've seen this same icon a few places, and I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. They're introducing that. Again, more compassion following. Notice the sign in the top right. It says his little dick energy. More compassion on your belly. Now, these transactions are not new. This picture is 3 guys standing on blocks of ice. One's a girl, and they're in front of. This was in Paris, I believe. These guys actually took this on the road, and they're hanging themselves for climate change. Now, this wasn't just a prana economy. They took this thing on the road. There's another picture here somewhere. Yeah, they took this on the road to Germany. And they won $60 billion. Germany spent $60 billion and was attributing it to this, these things. So these are highly profitable operations where the Compassionarians are used as the chortle, the raft to roll in on, to introduce these systems. And this is why we get so mad at it. This is why I get so mad at virtue signaling, because I see what rides in on top of it. I understand that. But from inside their aperture, these people think they're doing good. We need to stop calling these people shills. I don't doubt for a minute that some of these people are paid. I don't. But guys, this chick is not a shill. Right here, the white chick that's flipping off 2 black cops because of Black Lives Matter while she's wearing a mask. That's not a shill. That's an enraged compassionarian. She's trying to find compassion. She's trying to understand it. And when you're at the very first level of learning compassion, it would be easy to, where does everyone put their sympathy? I will put my sympathy there. When I'm in the backyard and I'm practicing my lightsaber, I'm going to do moves that I saw done. I'm going to do one of those 8 things, right? I'm going to try and do that, the infinity symbol. I don't know what it means, but this is how I learn. I'm going to point at the police officer behind my mask and tell him, "You are racist." And it doesn't compute. It's not because she's a shill. It's because she's trying to learn how to swing that lightsaber. She's not seated in her body yet. Do you know why? Because her ego's been under attack. Do you know how I know that? Because she's wearing a fucking mask and she's flipping off a black person about racism. That's how I know that. Ego, your brain requires fuel. The most calorie intense organ is your brain. If you're low on calories, it's not going to compute things. It's not going to do math going, "Hey, Glenda, before you flip them up, you do know, right?" It's never mind, Glenda. Just go ahead. Black Lives Matter. So the last 3 days, they pulled down statues everywhere. I don't mean 1 or 2. I mean a lot. And all this has been planned. This has been part of it. If you can remove the heritage, if you can remove the history, it's going to be a lot easier to install a new one. Columbus didn't discover America. He erased it. And the reason why Black Lives Matter is being pushed and why it's going global it's going global. It's because this is an erasure of history. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Black Lives Matter has released the London Mirror has reported has copied this. Black Lives Matter has released a list of all the statues they want torn down. There's over 60 on this list. If you see the video description, you'll find a link to this list. I'm going to just read it fast just to show you how ridiculous it is. Wellington Square, monument of James George Smith Neal. Georgia Square, statue of Colin Campbell, Lord Clyde, Sir Robert Peel. St. Andrew's Square, Henry Dundas, Earl Grey. Eden Palace, memorial to engineer William Armstrong. Oliver Cromwell, Manchester and Warrington. Sorry, that's the place. Brian Blundell. Christopher Columbus. Garden Whirl. William Leverhulme, philanthropist. Was helping people in the Congo. Fuck that guy. Jeez. Henry Morton Stanley. Gotta go. William Gladstone. Elijah Yale. Robert Clive. Sorry, this is taking so long. Robert Fisher. Picton Terrace. Sir Thomas Picton Cartmartin. Captain's Walk. Thomas Phillips Oxford. Cecil Rhodes. Captain Brecken. Christopher Conridge. Edward Colston Sonsbury. Captain Edward August Lindy. Captain Charles Frederick Lindy. William Beckford London. Robert Jeffer. Francis Galton. Charles II. King James II. St. Thomas Hospital needs to be renamed. Guyton London. Sir Francis Drake. Robert Blake. Horatio Nelson Chatham. Lord Kitchener. Sir Edward Codrington. Edward Gladstone. Exeter. Redver Buller Tavistock. Hey, there's a Tavistock. Francis Drake, already said that. He won him down twice. Nancy Astor needs to go. And, because she was a statue of the female Nancy Castor needs to go because she's anti-Semitic. There's 60 on that list. At least 6 are in this photos that I've showed you that have already been taken down. This is a global psyop. Remember the capacitor. It's not negative bad. It's ISIS. It's agnosis. Okay? By removing the statues, you'll get lost in calling that negative and evil. I get you don't like it, but you'll get lost in how the energy works. By removing the statues, you create the room to create a new history. Right? The New World Order will be discovered as our history is erased. And that's why yesterday, Alan Armentrout is such a hero, because he was tapping into his heritage. He was tapping into that system. And this BLM hit list has been on the chopping block for decades. What I mean by that is that this is how the New World Order replaces itself. By getting rid of all of these. Note, you can make a suggestion here. If you know of a racist statue, you can add one to the list. because that's how we do this. That's how this system works until we start to gain real compassion. But real compassion is caloric. Real compassion means you could get your head chopped off. Real compassion means that you would have to fight Darth Maul. And most people would rather pretend to be Jedi. Most don't have the capacity for that compassion yet. And it's going to take them a while to learn it. I would suggest that's why they're here. I would suggest all of us are here as part of Earth Dojo to learn compassion. And what we're seeing around us is just neophyte people in compassion. They just happen to be in bigger bodies. They just happen to be older than we are sometimes. They just happen to be taller. They just happen to be richer. Some of them are bad people. Yeah. But most of them aren't. Most of them have been told that Black lives didn't matter. And so they're just going to do what they're told. Oh, okay, well, yeah, Black lives matter. It's men are bad. Oh, okay, well, women are the best. Terrorism. Oh, well, let's go kill them. Right? They're doing the best they can. They would never be able to look at Building 7 as a gift of ball. They would never be able to look at Dr. Waynell Sexton on TV and think for a second that would be fake. I've asked these people. They don't understand why that would be possible. Why the news would be fake. Verbatim, I've been told that by many of them. And this is why I know that I can have compassion for them as learning their way through this system. What if psychopathy wasn't something that was always installed via trauma? What if psychopathy was actually just a natural part of learning? That psychopathy was a budding of a new facet inside your mind, inside your heart, right? Inside your spirit. Can you take this idea and can you use it to your advantage as you see this aperture for what it truly is? This isn't just an aperture of sight we're talking about, nor is it just an aperture of fear. It's an aperture of compassion too. People can only see the world through a dilation of compassion. They can only have so much compassion. And it's so expensive right from the bat because Black Lives Matter. That's why. Wait, you mean they don't matter? What? This is really hard. I'm supposed to be getting credit for Black Lives Matter. Why are you saying that's wrong? Why are you saying that's cruel? Remember what we talked about ego? The moment that you have to admit you're wrong, you get to spend some ego. You get to sacrifice ego for that alchemy to learn that lesson. If you've been taught to always have 5%, that's a very expensive proposition. You're literally telling someone who's running around on 5% gas that the gas they have in their tank that they've earned through Black Lives Matter doesn't belong to them. They're going to get violent. They're going to get very, very combative. Maybe not violent. They'll get combative with you. And it's a gift of ball for you too. Man, Black Lives Matter is, it's a big one. It's you don't have to win these arguments, guys. If someone comes up to you and says Black Lives Matter, and you say, "Yeah, that just doesn't seem right to me," and they're like, "What? What are you talking about? What do you mean?" And you can just say, "It just feels real contrived. It doesn't really feel real to me. I mean, it just doesn't. Doesn't feel real to me at all. I don't see that as being compassionate at all. You're done. You don't have to win. You don't have to convince them of anything. Guys, just by saying that, you were claiming, you've gone out to the prana economy, you've said, I'm not paying this much for olives. That's really what you're saying. No, that's way too much. These olives of Black Lives Matter, no, they're not that good. They're not even worth that. And whether you know it or not, that guy that has the black olives, that's selling the black olives, he's going to go home at night. And he can't help it. He's just going to feel that. He's just going to feel that. And the next time when he sets his price, he's making his sign, he's like, yeah, olives for $3 for Black Lives Matter. You're changing his prana economy, even though you didn't win. And this is how compassion wins. Because you start to understand, this is all about your own electrical transaction for the prana. Because before you had the compassion to see through Black Lives Matter, you would either be supercharged because Black Lives Matter, or super not charged because this is all bullshit. And both those help someone in the market who's selling or buying Black Lives Matter, right? Both of those. If you super agree with it or if you super don't agree with it. But when your compassion allows you to distance yourself from both, even from how angry you are at someone who's falling for that, you really start to set a new economy, and you don't have to win any arguments. The more confident you are that, I don't really like black olives, just the more confident you are in saying that, not in how you win, but just in how you say that, the more confident you are, the more expensive that transaction becomes for them to keep that same price next time. This is how stocks work. This is how the stock market works. This is how, if you're trading cryptocurrency, if you're trading stocks, if you're trading commodities, this is all how it works. And just like there's all this bullshit news in the paper that really stupid day traders don't know is fake. In fact, it doesn't even matter if it's fake. Because if you know how to fish, you realize that fish come regardless if something's true. They feed on the idea that something could be true. And again, that gives you this different level of understanding, right? You're looking at the exact same data as someone else. I'm looking at Black Lives Matter, and I see it exactly for what it is because I have compassion. These guys are looking at Black Lives Matter and see it as this is an opportunity to carry around baseball bats and express ourselves as being compassionate. We're so compassionate that we're going to be violent. Those are two totally different ways of looking at the exact same thing. Your job is not to get them to see anything differently. You're not going to win. You are not going to win with these guys. These guys are gone. They're gone. I don't think they have the ego to recover from this. They could surprise me, but I don't think so. You can't help these people. You can't help these people. It's not going to work. You are not going to help fuck white people, lady. Pretty sure she's a lady. You're not going to help her. All you're going to do is help yourself. And by helping yourself, you will make those transactions that much more expensive. To say, yeah, that just looks like vandalism to me. Yeah, what you're doing to the statue there, it just looks like vandalism. You're literally lynching a statue because you're mad that people used to get lynched. This is the mayor of D.C. Same logo, by the way. The mayor of D.C. wants to defund police. The mayor of D.C. wants to defund police. There's no Black Lives Matter there. You're not going to help her. You're not. You're not even going to stop her. You're not going to stop these guys. The harder you try and stop these guys, the more they'll do it. All you can do is make it expensive. All you can do is say, yeah, I saw you laying down on the ground there, but it just looked really stupid. It looked like you were just kind of faking it. Like you were just kind of following a script. That's kind of what it looked like to me. It looked like that really what you were trying to do was just tear down history, but you didn't even really know why. It was almost like you were laying down on your belly with your hands behind your back while a hit list of 60 statues was being ceremoniously removed around the world, all at the same time. All right after a nurse tells you all the bullshit with COVID. We're not gonna beat this with the same energy. We've paid too much into this system to stop it. We've fed too much into this to stop it. What's happening has already happened. All right? When Christopher Columbus came to America, it was already decided. Yeah, we're going to have five countries all sending ships and troops. We're going to clean out the fucking land. We're going to reset it because we want to form our own government here. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to call it the Revolutionary War. We're going to claim that they were seeking their independence. And we're going to go there and install Zionism. We're going to go there and finish it with the Civil War. Make sure they took us too seriously. When they heard independence, those fuckers got tainted by those Indians. That Iroquois Confederacy, people were listening to them. And it's so funny, but the founding fathers, straight up Confederates. Straight up Confederates. Straight up rebel Confederates. And that's why it took another war. And then 2 more after that, right? World War I, World War II. And it's only because Compassionarians are still learning. We're still trying to figure this all out. We got a long way to go, but we're getting there. We are getting there, man. We're getting there because we're talking about this. We're talking about this. We understand what the Civil War was. When Cinnamon Locks, when Custer, after the treaty, or after Appomattox Courthouse, the end of the war, what we called the end of the war, he took his regiment up north and he started slaughtering Indians. The very same Indians who gave him the outline for this country. And you see these horrible stories like slavery and the Trail of Tears to do one thing. It's no different than Mein Kampf. It's no different than the Holocaust. What are all these stories telling you energetically? They're telling you don't look. What does Christopher Columbus discovering America tell you? There was nothing here. What does a Holocaust tell you about lice in the air? Don't look. Don't look. What does Archduke Ferdinand death tell you? None of this is real. This is just systematic cleaning of the country. How do you clean it out? Hi, I'm here as a eugenicist. I'd like to kill about 17 million of you. Would anyone like to come fight? Here's a gun. We'll give you free clothes. We'll feed you. We'll make the chicks like you. We're going to tell you you're compassionate. Who wants this job? And millions of people said, that sounds like a good gig, man. That sounds good. I will do that. And it's so weird because we fear eugenicists. But we're the ones that do it. We're the ones that finish. We are the eugenicists. And it just, all it does is remind me, it's going to sound, I don't know, I don't care what it sounds like. All it does is remind me of how unimportant death is compared to how well you live your life. Compared to to how much bullshit you fell for, and more importantly, how many people you killed, damaged, maimed, thwarted, are convinced to wear fuck white people outfits as a result of your own retarded compassion. Because that's what Democrats are. They're retarded compassionists. And that's why they always fall every single fucking time for every single stupid story. That's why they fall for the Lion King of White Tardia. That's why they fall for every single thing that's shown on the news. You see the levels when you look closely. If you really look closely, you'll see that Democrats have less compassion than Republicans. It sounds back-asswards. The reason why is because Democrats do it more for what does it look like? How does this look? All right? Republicans are closer, just a little bit, not by much. They're closer to say, I don't give a shit what it looks like. How does it feel? And neither one of them are able to say, fuck both those things. Fuck how I look doing it. Fuck how I feel doing it. What is the utilitarian end result? This is pragmatism. William James, American philosopher. Truth is not an absolute. It's not a maypole. It's what works. If your goal is to have good, what brings the most good? What brings the most righteousness? However you want to define that. You are now stalking your compassion, not from how you look. Do I look compassionate when I say Black Lives Matter? And not how does it make me feel? Do I feel compassionate if I go kill a bunch of fucking Palestinians and say praise Israel? Or do you look at both these people as psychopathic and realize this has nothing to do with compassion? This is them learning to crawl. And I don't want to crawl. My compassion is ready to walk. My compassion is ready to run. And you start to realize what compassion truly is. That it's beyond shame, it's beyond fame. It reaches for the higher levels of love, right? Not love as a slave. A child loves his mother, but let's be honest, that mother feeds that child. That mother does everything for that child. Of course that child's going to love its mother. Between love and a partner, right? Two brothers love each other. As long as everyone gets along, they love each other. It's conditionally based on how well each other makes each other feel. And you have master-slave love, right? I love my child even if he hates me. I love my daughter even though she hates me. I love her regardless of how she feels. It's a higher form of love. And what's next? The love of humanity itself. I love those who I've never met, simply because we share the common bond of being human. Right? It's a more extrapolated form of love. Compassion has these same levels too. Right? How does it look? How do I look doing this? Is like grade 1, right? How do I feel doing this is grade 2. And then you start to ask, how do others feel doing this? What is the result of this system, right? Is it erasing my history? Is it helping? Is it helping? See, where's this guy? How does it make me feel? Look how happy he is. I feel so good being this way. I feel so good telling people they should kill themselves if they do not accept my 4 commandments. Let's put black people on their stomach behind a mask because they matter so much. Because they're little dick energy. There's much to unlearn So much. And that's part of the inversion. If you can, most of us have learned to fly our fighter jet by climbing out of the cockpit and looking at what we look like doing it. Do I look like Tom Cruise? Is my name spelled right on the outside? Right? It's you're outside your body. Soccer player learning to, after Saturday morning cartoons, he puts his shin guards on at 8 a.m. even though his game's at 10:30. He's mesmerized. He is a soccer player even though he's not on the field yet. He's trying as hard as he can to be a soccer player. It's a totally different way of learning the system, but it's how you start. It's how you begin. It's not faulty. It's the best you can do with your calories, with your capacitor, right? Because we are human capacitors. Not only are we filled with ego, but we have a certain amount of space for ego. We have a tank. Some have 2-gallon tanks. Some have 12-gallon tank. If you have a 12-gallon tank and still have no ego, you're still not compassionate. If you have a 2-gallon tank and it's completely full of ego, you can acquire compassion as best you can, but it's only going to be compassion that requires 2 gallons or less to expunge. How many calories does it expunge to realize that Black Lives Matter doesn't matter? How many calories does it take to see this bullshit? And guys, be compassionate. Don't tell me it's so obvious. Don't tell me that. These guys have been told lies their whole life, just like you have, but they're having more trouble. They're having more trouble understanding. They can't afford that transaction. It's just too much. It's just too much. I'd rather stay down here, says fuck white people lady. I can do this. I can survive on 1 gallon of gas. That's all I need. But I don't have heritage. I don't have reputation or pride. I don't have any of those things. All I have is fuck white people. I sell gum at the flea market. I don't sell couches. I don't sell heating and air conditioning units. I don't sell roofs. I sell Mexican jumping beans and gum. I can spend $7 and bring a bunch of gum here, and I can walk home with $36. And that's fuck white people. That's her prana economy. And you know what works by seeing it. If she's there, it works. If someone's in the market, it works. If a merchant's in the market and you can tell they've been there, it works. There's an economy for that. That's why everyone calls each other narcissists. It's because there's an economy for that kind of compassionless demonization. Yes. We demonize what we cannot afford. Think about it. My videos, the last 6 of my 7 videos, were demonized. Demonetized. Demonized. Why? YouTube could not afford them. It's not even YouTube. It's actually the people that want YouTube to do that. There's an appetite for that. We do not want anyone selling herb in the food court. You can't sell what you're trying to sell here, James. It's not going to work, right? This is the prana economy here. You're ruining everyone else's meal because everyone here is trying to enjoy Black Lives Matter. None of us are ever supposed to agree on this. Each of us are supposed to have an electrical transaction that we acquire and that we set. And we set our own prices on things. And as people become ready for someone like James True, they realize it comes with an economic change. I'm going to tax you if you're going to tell everyone how great Candace Owens is. I'm going to fucking tax you on that if you're around me. I'm going to show you her history. I'm going to say, please stop calling her a leader of civil rights. Please. comes with that transaction. Even though you're selling Candace Owens all day, even though it wins you prana all day, you would only come to me because you had enough to spend. You had enough to lose. You're like, I can afford this guy. I can afford this guy. I feel like this is going to pay off. I feel like I'm going to understand and have a better compassion muscle after this class. It's worth it to me. Even if I leave mad because I can't like Candace Owens anymore, I'm going to be able to be a monster by fall, right? I'm going to have this muscle that I work out every fucking day, where I go out there and I stop calling people narcs, psychopaths, evil, blah, 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 and I just start looking at them as they're trying as hard as they fucking can to find compassion. And the moment you do that, you now have a different prana economy, and they feel that from you. They're like, there's something different about James. There's something different about you. There's a wisdom with non-judgment. I realize I'm calling you guys, calling myself wise, non-judgmental in front of you. That's really fucked up. Prune my lips. Just trying to give you an example of what it feels like to be fuck white people and to meet someone like you, and you can walk in and go, yeah, it just doesn't really sing to me, but good luck. May you fuck white people. It's that has such a dramatically different effect, not even just on her, but on those around you listening. That has more of an effect. You don't have to win arguments. You just have to, you don't even have to do this. Fuck up all you want, but you don't have to win arguments. All you have to do is show them which of you is more compassionate. Arguments are won by who has more passion, but wisdom is gained, right? Like wisdom, reverence comes from who has more compassion, right? Passion, compassion. Interesting how this math works. Fight passion with compassion. Do you see what I mean? It's going to pay off for you. It's going to feel really gross the first couple times. It will. But that's why we're doing this, man. There's much to unlearn. I can't believe all the super chats I got today. That's huge. Thank you guys so much. I'm only seeing right now one. And thank you for the gift, Nylon. Thanks for all the gravy, brother. Thank you. I'm going to get the rest of you guys. It's going to let me come back after this is over, and I'm going to list you. I really, really appreciate it. Enjoy your Wednesday. Go out there and crush with compassion. And yeah, man. Yeah. It is true empathy. This is how we get it. This is how we gain it. And this is how we win. This is why it's the best apocalypse ever.